Sometimes a phenomenal performance can turn an ailing movie around and shift it back into high gear. But sometimes, in spite of how hard an actor tries, they just don't have the strength to pull the picture back on their own. Nonetheless, there are still a multitude of great performances out there that sparkle and shine in otherwise disastrous films. So, with that in mind, I'm Ellie with Whatculture here with great performances that almost saved disappointing movies. Mads Mikkelsen, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore. The Fantastic Beasts franchise has not had an easy ride. Starting from a strong base, it has since been mired in controversy and has struggled to stretch a wafer-thin plot across a 5-film timeline. Warner Brothers giving the boot to Johnny Depp midway through the series probably didn't make things any easier either. Nevertheless though, taking over from Depp in a franchise role was never going to be easy. Danish actor Mads Mikkelsen arrived at the perfect time, bringing some old-world menace to the role of series antagonist Grindelwald. The Secrets of Dumbledore shows Grindelwald's rise to power in parallel with Hitler, and Mikkelsen, who has something of a penchant for playing icy and authoritative villains, plays the part to perfection. Unlike Depp, he doesn't ham up or oversell the role. He steps into it as though wrangling a particularly tight glove caught between some dwindling sense of humanity and the evils he must commit to meet his ends. Alas, even the Great Dane's gifts couldn't save what is undeniably a filler movie in an already convoluted and overstretched series trying to capitalize on the last dregs of the Wizarding World IP. Poorly received by critics, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore took less at the box office than any other Potterverse film ever. Matthias Schweighöfer, Army of Thieves. The breakout actor from Zack Snyder's Army of the Dead stole the show as neurotic, dorky, lovable safecracker Ludwig Dieter, the perfect foil for a team of hard-nut zombie killers executing a zombified bank job in Vegas. Netflix predicted that the film would be a hit and so greenlit a prequel, Army of Thieves, before the first film had even hit our screens. Schweighöfer not only reprised his role, but took a double shift with directing duties too. But while the actor is a joy in front of the camera, his skills behind it leave something to be desired. Army of the Dead is far from perfect, but it managed to coast by on its premise, star power, and shocking horror moments, building up hype for another film. Army of Thieves, conversely, lacks a strong premise, a zombie element, or enough leading talent to bear out what amounts to a fairly run-of-the-mill heist movie plot. Schweighöfer channels everything that made his character so good in the first film, pitching his social awkwardness, penchant for incidental comedy, and moments of haphazard genius to perfection, but this gem of a performance wasn't quite enough to fill the vault. Matthew Lillard, Scooby-Doo. Matthew Lillard is the definitive Shaggy Rogers, there's no two ways about it. Unfortunately for him, he has never been given the other cast members to match. The early 2000s James Gunn live-action Scooby-Doo promised a big screen adventure for the Scooby Gang unlike any other they had been on. And while the aesthetic of the whole thing was spot on, there were also plenty of missteps. Among the film's many problems are the iffy early 2000s CGI, the reframing of Daphne as a karate-kicking girl boss, and a persistently uneven tone. Lillard eats, burps, screams, and zoinks his way through the part like he's lived in it for years. But his pitch-perfect performance is marooned among a plethora of shoddy dialogue and miscastings. Nevertheless, though our ideal Shaggy couldn't save the live-action Scoob, Lillard went on to voice the character in countless animated series and films and is still going strong today. Personally, I think the castings were perfect for this film, but then again, my opinions may be slightly biased and influenced by the good old rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia. These films were my childhood, and I won't hear a bad word said against them. Florence Pugh, Don't Worry Darling. Florence Pugh has well and truly broken out in recent years, winning parts in some major films and usually going the extra mile to try and top her previous efforts. Such is the case in Olivia Wilde's Don't Worry Darling, where she brought the emotion and gravitas necessary to carry Harry Styles, but unfortunately not to save the film. Troubles between Pugh's original co-star Shia LaBeouf and Wilde escalated on set, to the point that LaBeouf walked off and the production had to find a big enough name to fill his shoes. Why Harry Styles was drafted in as a replacement is anyone's guess, but it almost certainly had something to do with his general star power and ability to pull in a large audience who might otherwise have taken no notice of a reality-bending sci-fi flick. While the film is far from as bad as some critics made it out to be, it nonetheless suffers from the weight of its inspirations, leaning heavily into Stepford Wives and Matrix territory without offering up anything new or exciting, save for Pugh's performance, of course. Christian Bale, Thor: Love and Thunder. Given director Taika Waititi's runaway success with Thor Ragnarok, its sequel, Thor: Love and Thunder, had a lot to live up to. But like many of Marvel's post-Avengers Endgame offerings, it failed to live up to the hype. Waititi just couldn't seem to recapture the perfect blend of comedy and superhero action he perfected in the series' third entry, and fell back on cheap laughs and predictable plotting. Thor: Love and Thunder's dialogue and characterization are shaky and thin, the plot uninspiring, and while the cast isn't light on talent, most of the big names involved did not give the performances we know they are capable of, except for Christian Bale. The chameleonic actor dove into the role and put his weirdest acting alchemy into a sinister yet rounded portrayal of heavyweight villain Gorr the God Butcher, leaving us wondering if he didn't belong in a better scripted and more serious entry to the franchise's ever-expanding universe. Alas, we will never know, as Love and Thunder continued the MCU's trend of killing off the vast majority of its good villains in their first film. Red Skull, Ultron, need I say more? Tom Cruise, Rock of Ages. In 2012, someone in Hollywood thought it was the perfect time for the jukebox Broadway musical Rock of Ages to become a movie. Dollar signs in their eyes, songs in their hearts, they marched onwards, assembling an uneven cast, Russell Brand, Alec Baldwin and the like, and plonked little Tom Cruise on top to cap it all off. While not a method actor in the traditional sense, Cruise is known for throwing himself into his parts, doing the legwork and prep work necessary to make sure his audience is wowed. And this is precisely the attitude he brought to Rock of Ages, managing all this and more. Going full glam as Stacey Jax, he channeled Axl Poison and the crew, donned the guyliner, got ripped, and even learned to sing so he could belt out those jukebox classics. Though every one of his scenes and songs sticks the landing, his was little more than a supporting role in an already busy ensemble piece. In short, his screen time was too brief to really turn the film around, and it sank big time at the box office. James McAvoy, Glass. M. Night Shyamalan can't win. Whether he's flipping the script with twist endings or keeping things straight, it seems like critics have spent the past 2 decades on the director's back. This is apart from a brief reprieve with Split, a secret sequel to his early hit movie Unbreakable, which saw James McAvoy first flex all his acting muscles and many physical ones at once as a multiple personality character with 23 distinct personas. The film proved to be such a hit with fans and critics that when Shyamalan announced its sequel Glass, pretty much everyone was on board. But the goodwill didn't last long. Despite rounding up Samuel L. Jackson, Bruce Willis, McAvoy and others, it flopped like a dead fish. Just as in Split, McAvoy went to extensive physical and performative lengths in Glass to deliver on his many personalities. He maintained an extensive training regime and squeezed blood, sweat and tears out of his performative range, extending it even beyond the film's predecessor. And you know what? It shows. He is far and away the best thing about the movie. Alas though, even he could not save it, as the script let everyone else down, especially those who weren't sporting an extra 16 pounds of muscle and a wardrobe of character costumes. Margot Robbie, Suicide Squad. To say that Suicide Squad was disappointing may be the understatement of the century. After years of build-up, exciting trailers and merchandise out the wazoo, even if the film had been fantastic, it may not have felt like enough. Some DC fans were so stricken by the lackluster and deeply muddled final product, they tried to sue Warner Brothers for misrepresenting the final product. Having said all that, there were some exciting elements to the movie, translating key comic book moments onto the screen in style and giving fans some pretty well-rounded realizations of the characters they love. At the very top of the list of the film's successes was Margot Robbie's portrayal of the Joker's squeeze, Harley Quinn. Robbie managed to both pin down and flesh out the character while up against limited material and buried within an ensemble piece. She made such a convincing Quinn, in fact, that she managed to carry on through both her own standalone DCEU entry and the gross magnificent James Gunn-helmed Suicide Squad reboot. Jason Momoa, Fast X. Overacting is usually considered the bane of any good film. But what about a bad one? Fast X crashed into cinemas unburdened by consequential storytelling, but nevertheless weighed down by several films' tangled baggage and a barrage of unnecessary characters. As the first part of either a 2- or 3-parter franchise finale, rumours abound, it delivered pretty much what one would expect. Many explosions, a few fast cars, invulnerable characters, resurrected characters, forgettable heroes, and an interesting villain. In what may well be a series first, Jason Momoa created a memorable and distinctive villain, Dante. And he doesn't let the serious business of global carnage and bloody vengeance prevent him from having fun. Doing his best Joker impersonation, Momoa went camp crazy and thoroughly OTT, but was far and away the highlight of the unfortunate 10th entry into the flagging Fast and Furious franchise. Did Dante make Fast X a good film? Unfortunately not, no. But he did elevate it, and if some scenery got chewed in the process, well, that's a small price to pay.